People who ride this regularly say that the entire point of a trail system is that they don't have to worry about wrong-way drivers. And meanwhile, we've got one coming right now. There we go. Told you it's been a problem that's been out here all day. People who ride these trails just want to feel safe. Live in Grand Rapids, Julie Dunmire, Fox 17 News. I want to warn everyone before they watch the video that it is disturbing in nature. We actually had to mute the audio on this video as well because of the language used in it. There are a lot of remaining questions about those 9 people that were hurt in that fireworks incident and that one woman killed in that incident. Students at Michigan State University returned to campus today for class. I want to start by saying I'm a Spartan. Many of us at Fox 17 are proud Spartans, which is why today we chose not to ask any questions, but take a step back and listen. One foot in front of the other. Monday, students walked to class one step at a time.
I should be thinking about my graduation.
Going backward to make sure it never happened at all is all anyone wants.
I should not be sitting here crying, wondering what's going to happen.
But with one foot in front of the other, Spartans are doing what Spartans will.
Lawmakers have the power to stop this, and we are begging you, please, to stop this from happening.
Spartans know moving forward for good is impossible, but the next steps only come as Spartans bravely take them.
This is so much to put on young people, the constant fear.
Spartans here to hold each other. The hugs, tears, grief, only coming after.
When we hear our children have to run, hide, and fight.
What Spartans won't do is be pressured to share their grief.
Shouldn't be that way. Should never be that way. Run, hide, and fight.
The reason for our sign propped against a tripod. This is their story, on their terms, not ours.
And I just have to sit here wondering, when will it stop?
2 brave Spartans took the mic, and many more didn't. That's perfectly okay. Strength comes from within. Michigan's notorious underdogs will show you just what they're made of. The signs, impossible to miss. A Spartan's strength is in numbers, and in each person who calls their colors green and white.
Heart breaks for the Michigan State University Spartan Nation. It really breaks all over Michigan, all over the world, really.
Classes at Berkey Hall, a place where I took class, where my brother took class. Many of my friends have taken classes there. Many Spartans, thousands, tens of thousands throughout the years taken class inside that very building. Classes have been moved from that building for the foreseeable future. Of course, this is going to be a long road ahead. Spartans, stay strong. Reporting in East Lansing, Julie Dunmire, Fox 17 News.
First at 10, the state's Office of the Auditor General found that 27% of cases referred to Adult Protective Services with criminal allegations go unreported to law enforcement.
Our Julie Dunmire has been looking into one case in Allegan County for months and has an in-depth look at his story.
William Fitzhugh's death considered a homicide, according to a medical examiner. Families saying they've known that all along. Pullman, Michigan. A town so small, it's not really a town. An unincorporated community in Allegan County with one stoplight, a VFW hall. And right next door to Pullman Bible Church on Main Street sits William Fitzhugh's house.
Most of the land was full.
William paid his dues, retiring as a skilled welder. In this home, he raised his children.
Over 50 years.
82-year-old William remembering the good times here with his wife, Eula, who everyone calls Tiny.
Me and my wife, we had a good time.
But the good times are hard to remember, overshadowed by William's recent reality.
I found my dad right here in this bed right here.
This is Will's son, Steve Fitzhugh.
Steve's my best man.
His father's home, his childhood home. Unrecognizable.
It's not the same house I grew up in, I'll tell you that.
Enough to make anyone's stomach turn.
The smell in there is just horrific.
But how William and Tiny came to live like this haunts Steve and his family.
We've tried everything to get help in here, and it just didn't come.
Family says the problem, Corey Neathery and Christopher Fitzhugh, Tiny and William's grandsons,
They moved in around 5 years ago. At least 4 reports made to Adult Protective Services, all with concerns about William and Eula Fitzhugh going back to 2017. The reports all essentially say the same thing, accusing Corey Neathery and Christopher Fitzhugh of taking the couple's money for drugs, beating William up, saying they were living in filth, and not seeing a doctor. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services tells Fox 17 every time they went to investigate, they were forced to close the case because William and Eula refused help and were capable of making their own decisions. But behind closed doors, this is what they were refusing help from. A bathroom with no working septic. Corey Neathery and Christopher Fitzhugh both have criminal records with the Allegan County Sheriff's Office for meth and assault charges, many of which come back to their grandparents' address. Allegan County Sheriff's report noticing an increase in violence in the home in 2018, saying they referred the case to Adult Protective Services more than once, but also reports William refused to press charges, made excuses for his injuries, and denied their help.
I thought maybe it'd straighten up, but it never did.
Steve says shortly after the boys moved in, he'd go to check on his folks. That didn't last.
These kids ran the whole family off one by one. And, you know, it started out with a fight. I've been in a fist fight with these kids. And my parents were so scared of them, they told the cops that I come over and start it because they knew when I left, they'd have to face them kids. So the cop pretty much says, you know, Steve, they took their side, so we pretty much stay away.
Things would only get worse. By summer 2021, Steve and his sister knew they had to do something. They had to get their parents out of that house.
We knew there was a little going on, but we didn't know how bad it really was until we paid the money, took control of the health to get into this house to do a video. And that's when we seen it.
Filing for temporary guardianship. October 18th, 2021, Steve got his mom and dad out. Tiny now lives with Steve.
He's took all this abuse, and my mom hasn't been touched one time because my dad will throw himself in front of harm's way to protect my mother.
William's medical records, provided to Fox 17 by family and with William's permission, paint a more clear picture of what happened to William. When he got to Holland Hospital, they found multiple broken ribs, some older injuries, some newer, a broken nose, collapsed lung, and broken hip. That's just the beginning. The medical records state William, who has diabetes, hadn't been to a doctor in years, that he was malnourished and arrived covered in his own excrement. Doctors saying the injuries are from suspected elder abuse and that there was so much damage to so much of William's body, he could rapidly deteriorate at any moment and die.
I really can't even put it in words. I just got him back. I'm not ready to lose him right now.
William, in too bad of shape to be treated for the stage 4 cancer, doctors also found.
We really can't say when, but he's not going to leave the nursing home.
He was given 6 months to live.
He's talking about plans for next year, building a new house. And, you know, I'm going along with him knowing that he's not going to be here next year.
His children were hopeful for one last Christmas with their dad, a Christmas they never got. William Fitzhugh died December 12th, 2021.
What he done to me, they need jail time.
We spoke before that day for this interview. Both Corey and Christopher have been arrested and charged with the abuse of their grandparents. An autopsy report coming out just days ago confirming William's death as a homicide. But his family says the hardest part of losing their dad is knowing how he lived his last years.
No, when he wasn't doing drugs, he was a nice boy, but they get into it real bad.
I've been digging into this story for more than 3 months now. In our next story, we're going to get more in detail of why family believes someone should have done something sooner and why officials say these types of cases are some of the most difficult to investigate. For now, in studio, Julie Dunmire, Fox 17 News.
The Department of Health and Human Services issued a statement to Fox 17 saying, in part, quote, "An adult who demonstrates capacity to make his or her own decisions has the right to decline Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services workers who visited Mr. Fitzhugh in person found that he demonstrated capacity to make his own decisions. He denied any abuse, and there were not visible signs of abuse when Adult Protective Services visited him, neglect or financial exploitation, and declined services from Adult Protective Services. As a result, MDHHS had no basis for filing a petition for guardianship." Kent County mother is turning pain into purpose after her son was killed by his own father in September of 2021.
Katie Hall has never spoken on camera about her loss until today. Our Julie Dunmire shares how she's working to make a difference.
Yeah, it is all in the name of that little boy, Dylan Thiebaud, who was just 3 years old when his father, Derek, shot and killed him before turning the gun on himself. Ever since, Katie Hall, Dylan's mother, has been on a mission, finally ready after some time to share her story.
This is how Katie Hall remembers her baby boy, Dylan Thiebaud, who will forever be just 3 years old.
He was a spirited kid. He loved to sing, loved to dance, loved his mom and his big sister, loved to ride his bike and play soccer. He was full of life, and unfortunately, that was cut short way too soon.
Cut short inside this Lowell Township home. Dylan found dead from a gunshot wound in September of 2021. Dylan's father, Derek Thiebaud, pulled the trigger that took Dylan's young life, then killed himself.
Picked Dylan up Tuesday, August 31st of 2021 that night, and Dylan never came home. So it looks like he killed him that night.
Katie believes her story shows failures in the family court system. She says she left her abusive relationship in 2021 and had sole physical custody of Dylan, what she knew was safest for her child. In a protective order taken out against Derek Thiebaud, Katie described him as being mentally unstable, saying she had serious concerns for his mental health. But ultimately, according to documents shared with Fox 17, a judge decided to start phasing in unsupervised visits for Derek with Dylan. Katie says that decision was made on August 13th. Weeks later, Dylan was dead.
I just remember that sinking feeling when she said that she was going to take away supervised parenting time. And I remember walking out after that motion and looking at my sister and saying that the judge had just sentenced Dylan to death.
She's taken her story of what happened to Dylan to Washington, D.C., working with a national nonprofit called the Center for Judicial Excellence, which is focused on reforming the family court system.
I remember when I first read the story of Dylan and Katie, and it just broke my heart. We are tracking these cases all over the country. They're coming in every 6 days. On average, a child is being murdered by a parent.
The Center for Judicial Excellence believes Dylan's death was a preventable one.
So we are trying to make changes in the system so that nobody else has to go through this.
Changes that are coming to Kent County, says prosecutor Chris Becker. Kent County's first domestic violence court is in the works, using Dylan's case as a foundation. A review of the little boy's death brought forth multiple suggestions for the new court, like adding in lethality assessments. The hope is that with a specialized court for domestic violence victims, fewer families will slip through the cracks.
A little bit slower than I thought. I mean, to be honest with you, it's going a little bit slower than I thought, but I think we're making progress. I think we're making progress, and we're getting things together.
It's just one small step forward for Katie.
I never for a million years thought that we would be here or there.
For her mission to make sure her son's memory lives on.
I absolutely do it for Dylan. I do it for Dylan, and I do it for every child that has gone through the system and lost their life because they weren't protected.
In Grand Rapids, Julie Dunmire, Fox 17 News.
This is 13-year-old Javion Childry. In every way, a happy kid pictured here. Now, Javion is at the Children's Hospital recovering from a gunshot wound to his face.
He said, next thing you know, it's like he was hit with a basketball. So he took off running.
But it wasn't a basketball that hit 13-year-old Javion Childry. It was a bullet.
He had bullet fragments around his eye. He also have bleeding. We hope the bleeding stopped. That's going towards his brain.
The shooting happened in this bathroom, right near Alger Middle School. Bianca Bridgeforth says her son was outside with a friend.
I know the young man, he's sorry. I know he is.
Javion and a friend left the school building at some point during the day. How that happened, the district doesn't know yet.
There shouldn't have been no reason why them two young men was outside in that bathroom anyways.
And no reason children should have gotten their hands on a gun. Bianca says she's lost all faith in her child's school to keep students safe.
Alger is something different. If I could talk all day, I could tell you all day about Alger. And it's not a place to send your kids. It's not a safe environment at all.
All Bianca has to lean on now is her own personal faith.
For the most part, man, we just fight and we just prayed up, for real. We prayed up. And that's the only thing we could do. I got faith, so I just hope for my baby a speedy recovery.
You can listen to Bianca's full interview with a story that we have linked on our website, fox17online.com. For now, in studio, Julie Dunmire, Fox 17 News.